I am literally still vibrating with rage. Picture this, okay? I spent thousands of dollars, traveled all the way to the very edge of the Indian Ocean, and finally hooked into a massive 100-pound giant trevally. The drag is screaming, the rod is bent entirely double, and then just nothing. Slackline. A monster fish just bent my hook completely straight and swam right off. Oh man, I have to laugh, but only in a friendly way, I promise. My friend, you have just experienced a catastrophic failure of physical engineering. I'm Coriander, your resident expert, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking your emotional tragedy and turning it into a really fascinating metallurgical investigation. We are going to explore the hidden science of fishing hooks and figure out exactly why cheap gear is mathematically destined to break your heart. Let's just dive right into this. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. A 10-cent piece of metal just straightened out and cost me the literal fish of a lifetime. I swear I have the worst luck in the world. Well, it actually isn't luck at all. Here is the hard truth. Modern hooks, they're not just cheap bent wire fasteners. They are precision-engineered tools. They act as the singular conduit for force transfer between the kinetic energy of a massive predatory species and the mechanical resistance of your reel. When you treat your hook as an afterthought just to save a few pennies, you are straight up inviting failure.
Section 1. The Postmortem. Why Cheap Hooks Bend.
To really answer why cheap hooks bend, we've got to look way closer than the naked eye can see. A hook's failure or its success isn't actually determined when the fish strikes. It's dictated back in the factory by its invisible crystalline structure and elemental composition. You see, iron in its pure state is soft and ductile. To make it a functional tool, it has to be alloyed with carbon. Your bargain bin hook, it was likely made of low carbon or mild steel. It's super cheap to mass produce, but it's highly ductile. High carbon steel, on the other hand, contains 0.6 to 1.5% carbon. Those carbon atoms act as microscopic roadblocks in the crystal lattice, giving the metal exceptional tensile strength and hardness. Wait, highly ductile? So you're telling me that under the bone-crushing torque of that giant trevally, the atomic planes in my hook literally just smoothly slid past one another?
Exactly. And that brings us to a completely crucial concept in physics, yield strength. This is the exact stress point at which a material stops acting elastically, meaning it won't just spring back, and undergoes plastic deformation, which is a permanent change. Think of it kind of like a paperclip. You can bend a paperclip back and forth a little bit, but push it too far and it just stays bent.
Oh man, so my mild steel hook simply hit its yield point and stretched out into a straight line. It literally didn't stand a chance.
But hang on a second. Why not just make cheap hooks incredibly thick to compensate for the weak metal?
Because of the square law of penetration, which brings us to the number 4. If you double a wire's diameter, you actually need 4 times the force to penetrate the fish's mouth. Conversely, if you halve the wire's diameter, it penetrates with only 1/4 of the force. So you absolutely must use thin wire to penetrate a bony jaw effectively. But that thin wire must be made of high-carbon steel to prevent it from straightening out under pressure.
Moving on to Section 2, Forged in Fire, the heat treatment process.
So, simply having high-carbon steel wire isn't the end of the story. The raw wire has to undergo a highly controlled thermal journey to survive the violent shock of a strike. First, the wire is heated and formed into the hook shape. Second, it undergoes quenching, which is rapid cooling, usually in oil, to create extreme hardness. Finally, it requires tempering, which is a super precise reheating process.
Wait, so the factory has to nail this temperature exactly?
Absolutely. If they miss the tempering temperature by just a few degrees, the entire hook is ruined. Too low and it snaps like glass, too high and it bends like warm butter.
To understand the stakes of that tempering process, we need to talk about martensite. When the steel is rapidly quenched, its structure transforms into this martensite phase. It's incredibly hard for sure, but also extremely brittle.
Let me guess, if a cheap hook isn't properly tempered using electronic systems to stabilize this martensite, a massive shock loading from a GT strike is going to be completely disastrous.
Spot on. It causes an immediate cleavage fracture. The hook won't even bend. It's just going to shatter without any warning at all.
Section 3. The Edge. Chemical Sharpening.
Having a strong hook shank is great and all, but it means absolutely nothing if you can't pierce the fish's jaw in a fraction of a second. Traditional cheap hooks are sharpened mechanically, usually right on a grinding wheel. But mechanical grinding actually relies on friction. It tears the metal fibers and leaves these microscopic scratches and burrs. Even worse, The heat generated by the grinder causes localized thermal stress.
Wait, grinding damages the hook? Are you saying the traditional sharpening method is actually weakening it?
Yes, exactly. It can drop the tensile strength of the tip from 100,000 psi all the way down to just 35,000 psi. Plus, those little scratches become perfect microscopic pockets for aggressive saltwater corrosion. The premium solution here is chemical sharpening, or electropolishing. This is where I totally geek out because it so brilliantly illustrates the intersection of chemistry and angling. Through a process called anodic dissolution, the hooks are submerged in an electrolyte bath of phosphoric and sulfuric acids. An electric current is passed through, and the metal ions dissolve. The acid attacks the microscopic peaks and burrs fastest, melting them away to create a surface that is perfectly, molecularly smooth. It refines the edge without introducing a single ounce of mechanical or thermal stress.
Here, I'll prove it to you live. Take this premium, chemically sharpened hook and just gently drag the point across your thumbnail. That is known as the fingernail test.
Okay, let's see. Whoa, no way, that is crazy. I put zero pressure on this, and the point instantly bit into the keratin of my nail and just stuck there. It didn't slide a single millimeter.
Yep, that is exactly the kind of immediate, frictionless penetration you need when a fish strikes your lure.
Section 4. The Wee-High Hook Secret.
So, who is actually making these marvels of engineering? It's time to reveal the industry's ultimate insider tip. It's the highly guarded manufacturing processes happening right now in the global tackle hub of Weihai. The factories there have completely mastered what we call the Weihai advantage. They aren't just using basic carbon steel. They're incorporating proprietary alloys with trace elements of vanadium for toughness and silicon for flexibility, all while eliminating microscopic impurities like sulfur.
And they use advanced electronic tempering systems for exact thermal profiles. That's exactly what you need to survive the immense bending torque of a 100-pound GT without failing.
Okay, hold on. Let me think about these numbers. A generic mild steel hook hits its plastic yield point and bends at just 30 pounds of force. Medium carbon holds out until 60, but the tournament-grade high carbon maintains structural integrity well past 100 pounds? Wow. Okay, my GT didn't just get lucky. Under the strict physics of leverage and drag, my cheap 10-cent hook was literally mathematically destined to fail.
Okay, Coriander, I am completely sold on this, but I have one really big question for you. How does a regular angler living in an island nation like Sri Lanka actually get their hands on these chemically sharpened, high-carbon marvels without paying massive retail markups? Because locally, getting top-tier global tackle usually means paying an insane premium. And here is the ultimate solution. Through Daraz Global Shipping, anglers in Sri Lanka can completely bypass the traditional importers and those massive retail markups. Instead of settling for mixed quality or paying totally inflated prices locally, you can access the exact Weihai tournament-grade manufacturing lines directly. It ships right to your door with extremely high cost efficiency. You are getting the world's most advanced metallurgy for just a fraction of the cost of those legacy brand names.
I am literally pulling out my phone and upgrading my tackle box on Daraz right now. Because spending thousands on a boat, the fuel, the heavy-duty rods, and the braided line, it's all completely worthless if the cheapest, smallest piece of gear in the entire chain fails at the critical moment. I've definitely learned my lesson. Do not let a 10-cent hook cost you a trophy fish. Exactly. So I want to leave all of you listening with this provocative thought to ponder before your next trip. Is your tackle box currently filled with microscopic weak links forged from cheap, mild steel, just waiting to hit their yield point and break your heart on the very next strike? Take a close look at your gear. Invest in high-carbon, chemically sharpened hooks, respect the physics of the strike, and never ever let the fish of a lifetime swim away with a straightened piece of cheap wire. Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and we really hope this sparks your curiosity to dive even deeper into the science of angling.